Pretty big news for Donald Trump today. Today, a federal judge who he actually tapped to serve in his role as a federal judge has weighed in on the Trump administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport migrants who they claim were members of criminal gangs like Tren de Aragua. Well, this judge believes that using the Alien Enemies Act is unlawful in this specific context. He is, again, the first federal judge to make such a ruling, and he's also a Trump-appointed judge. So, before I give you the details, Cenk, are you surprised?
No, so some Trump-appointed judges have been comical, but most of them are still judges, so we're gonna disagree with most of their rulings. But Trump gives them no choice because he's so wildly unconstitutional that if they believe in America at all, they have to rule a certain way, as you're about to see here.
Right, so here's what Judge Fernando Rodriguez, good for Trump for tapping a judge named Fernando Rodriguez as a federal judge.
Well, there's tons and tons of conservative judges who are minorities, and so
no, that's a great thing. It's just I'm a little surprised by that. Anyway, Rodriguez concluded that Trump's March 15th invocation of the Alien Enemies Act is unlawful and exceeds the scope of the centuries-old wartime law that allows the president to deport non-citizens with little to no due process during an invasion or predatory incursion. Now, of course, Donald Trump himself has repeatedly referred to migrants coming into the United States as an invasion. Now you kind of have a sense of why he uses that kind of language. But Rodriguez wrote that the president cannot summarily declare that a foreign nation or government has threatened or perpetrated an invasion or predatory incursion into the United States, followed by the identification of the alien enemies subject to detention or removal. While the judge declined to weigh in on whether Tren de Aragua represents a foreign nation or government, it doesn't, it is a gang. He concluded that the Trump administration fell short of proving the violent gang was engaging in an invasion or predatory incursion as required by the Alien Enemies Act. So until this year, the only times that the Alien Enemies Act was used was during the War of 1812, World War I, and also World War II. I don't know why people think that that's a good argument against what Trump is doing. I think that's actually the weakest argument. However, the argument that we're hearing from the judge is an excellent argument. And the other thing that I would just say is, think about the serious nature of this act, right? It exists, and the president is allowed to use it correctly in the right context. But in this case, he's just accusing migrants of being gang members without due process and deporting them. And as a result of that, the administration has admitted to making mistakes and deporting the wrong people.
Yeah, two different issues here. One is it right to use the act? Is this really an invasion or a predatory incursion? There, my guess is that some members of the Supreme Court will say, yes, it is an invasion. Yes, it is predatory incursion. It'd be Alito, Thomas, and maybe a couple of others. I don't know if they get a majority on that or not. They might. So, but the second issue is much more important, and that's where I think the Supreme Court's gonna come in. If the earlier ruling is any guidance, might come in unanimous in the same way that this Trump appointed judges, saying, no, you have to listen to the courts. That's not optional, right? So you wanna say you're using this law to declare this an invasion, and that this brother is part of that invasion, and hence you're gonna kick him out of the country. The way you do that is you bring him in front of a judge and you show that he's part of that invasion, and you prove it, and then we kick him out of the country, right? But if you say, just trust me, don't worry about it, I just put a bunch of them down there, and no, I'm not gonna bring him to any court, no, I'm not gonna prove it, and yeah, maybe I got the wrong guy, so what? No, that's not how the country runs. And that's not how our Constitution is built. And think about it, guys. Judges are not going to give away their own power, right? Judges have the power to determine what is and is not constitutional, what is and is not legal. They're not going to say to the executive branch, hey, you know what? We don't need it. We're useless.
Yeah.
Why don't you just make all the decisions? And then we'll just sit here like a bunch of schleps. That's why the Supreme Court was 9-0 against Trump on Abrego Garcia, which is unprecedented.
Yeah.
Somehow they got Clarence Thomas to vote against Trump because basically they said, Clarence, if you vote this way, then we might as well all go home because we're totally pointless.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And look, the judicial branch, at least for now, does not appear to be like Congress. It has not ceded its power and control to the executive branch. So that is a little bit of good news here because there are some remnants of our system of checks and balances that remain in place. Now, final thing I'll say is, what the Trump administration's argument is here. The Trump administration, or Trump himself, proclaimed proclamation had alleged that Tren de Aragua was a hybrid criminal state invading the US. Though Trump's proclamation claimed that Tren de Aragua members harmed lives in the US, it did not provide any evidence to suggest the gang did so in an organized armed attack, according to Judge Rodriguez. So it is very likely this case will be appealed all the way to the Supreme Court, as Cenk had alluded to earlier, and we'll get a final decision from the Supreme Court. But for now, a Trump-appointed judge has ruled against Trump in regard to the use of the Alien Enemies Act.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.